We did a show
In this video, Jim Cramer emphasizes the diminishing influence of the Federal Reserve and highlights that Donald Trump is likely to play a pivotal role in determining the market's direction, particularly in his anticipated second term. He underscores Trump's proactive engagement with businesses and key figures, noting that this could invigorate the economy and enhance stock valuations through a climate of animal spirits. Cramer contrasts Trump's hands-on approach with President Biden's distance from corporate leaders, suggesting that Trump's activities may create dynamic market momentum through new deals and collaborations.
Ever since COVID, we've had to deal with these endless hand-wringings about what the Fed will or won't do. As the pandemic raged, the Fed cut rates and cut rates. Their every move reverberated through the stock market, sent it soaring. Then when the Fed switched to being restrictive, it created a bear market in 2022, knocking out hundreds of companies that had just come public, stunting the growth of many domestic companies. When the Fed switched directions again to easing last September, lots of stocks went up, only to go back down when it turned out that the bond market wasn't playing ball. We got this weird market where we started doubting the Fed's every move because the bond bullies kept contradicting it. The Fed cut short rates only to see longer-term rates go higher. Lots of back and forth on that one. Crazy moment. But you had no choice. See, because under Biden, when it came to stocks, Jay Powell and his merry band of governors and regional presidents, well, they were the only game in town. But then President Trump takes office, and suddenly we don't really care what these Fed heads have to say. Who were they anyway? You know why? Because it may not matter anymore. Sure, interest rates always matter. That's not going to change. However, out here, it feels like we may be back in the world that I remember. A world where the Fed only plays a role at extreme moments. A world where we don't have to guess and guess and guess their next move or even listen to what the regional governors are saying because it won't be that important in the margins. Lots of times the Fed might have a bias, but it hasn't always had that much impact on the action. The Fed always had the last word under Biden, though. Before him, though, business is what mattered. Homework about business, not homework about the Fed. And in that kind of world, there are some really terrific investing opportunities for you and for me. Or to put it as bluntly as I can, this market is no longer a ward of the Fed. Stocks are going to trade on earnings, not just on interest rates, and I think that, frankly, is terrific. Now, in some ways, what's happened is we now have a president who's friendly with big business in a very hands-on way. He's speaking to more CEOs than any president I've ever seen. In the last 24 hours, he's probably spoken to more than any president I've ever seen. He's putting together gigantic deals like he's a business person. This Stargate is planning to build so many data centers, only $500 billion worth, that the stocks of Oracle, SoftBank, ARM Holdings, and NVIDIA went through the roof. This morning on Walk the Street, Renee Haas, CEO of ARM, told me that Stargate could create tremendous demand for all data center equipment, especially high-end chips from NVIDIA. To those who thought that there might not be enough customers, NVIDIA's latest and greatest product, Blackwell, think again. Right at this moment, President Trump is trying to put a deal together with the United States government, partnering with someone to buy TikTok or its Chinese parent company, ByteDance, or whatever you get. Now, this one's totally wild. Get this. He's basically saying to China, look, you can sell us this very valuable asset right now at a reduced price, mind you, and we're going to run with it, and we're going to run with an American company of our choice. Or we can just close it and make it worthless. It's your choice. Yeah, he's literally making an offer that the Chinese can't refuse. He's giving them the Godfather treatment. Why can't other people see that? That's what's happening. At the same time, he's remaking the oil and gas business on the fly. I think Trump wants to bring the price of oil and gas down in a two-for-one deal, getting inflation lower here, bleeding the Russians dry, because they need oil and gas prices to stay high in order to fund their war in Ukraine. Twofer. And he's making it clear that he favors more commerce with China, something that Wall Street sees as a possible win for American semiconductor companies whose exports have been restricted because of fears, probably well-grounded, that China would use the chips for military purposes. I go through this litany for one reason only. Hate him or like him, the level of activity is creating something that the Fed hasn't been able to do. It's creating an economy and a stock market dominated by what we call animal spirits. And the animal spirits are good for stock prices. Before I go into this term animal spirits, let me just say, first of all, it's always bothered me because it kind of obfuscates rather than enlightens. It's like when I asked my former wife, Karen Cramer, tremendous stock trader, why a certain stock was going higher, and she'd say, more buyers than sellers. What good is that? But the fact is, whether you like Trump or hate him, he's now the sun that the economic solar system revolves around. He and not Jay Powell will most likely determine the direction of the stock market, and he wants it to go higher. I think this president, if he saw the market go down for a couple of days, he'll call up Elon Musk and say, hey, man, let's get something positive, launch some rockets, do an IPO for that Starlink thing. Or he call Larry Ellison from Oracle and say, hey, what else can Oracle do? Let's get another deal going with the Chinese. Or maybe he'll call David Solomon at Goldman Sachs, or Jamie Dimon at JP Morgan and say, hey, man, we got to get some companies. You got to get some come public here. Let's go down to the New York Stock Exchange. Let's get some deals. And that's how we're going to do business for the next 4 years. Or maybe he'll just wake up and call the heads of states of a whole bunch of countries and say he didn't like how little business they did with the United States last month, so he's going to cut off their oxygen unless they do more buying. Yeah, I think he's going to look at it like a ledger. That's how positive animal spirits do get generated, though. This is not something Trump always did perfectly well in the first term, but he seems to have gotten a better handle on it now that he's back in office, possibly because more CEOs are willing to cooperate, also because he's in touch with CEOs from the tech industry. Now, I'm not saying that he's focused on the S&P 500 and Dow every minute of the day, although he sure seems to have discovered the NASDAQ. I am saying that the contrast between Trump and the energy that he's putting into business versus what Biden did is striking. Biden had an aversion to talking about business except when it came to climate change. He didn't seem to care for CEOs. Even when he did good things for a particular industry like the CHIPS Act, he wasn't the one dealing with them or taking any, seemed to be all that much pride in it. Because of his absence, the focus shifted to Fed Chief Jay Powell as the most important person in the economic firmament. That's over. Here's the bottom line. We're now looking at the changing of the guard from Powell to Trump. Oh, it won't be easy, as one's a pretty predictable guy and the other's a wild card. And if you have to ask me which is which, then you aren't ready to handle the next 4 days, let alone the next 4 years. Mark in Illinois. Mark.
Hey, Jim. Thanks for taking my call.
No problemo. What's happening?
So I'm trying to skate where the puck's going here. This stock has seen a downturn since 2022, but with a return to profit growth last year, a potential growth year for industrials, and a nice dividend, is UPS worth a look? Okay,
so I read a piece this morning that drove the stock up, actually saying it is going to be better when they report. This would be Carol Tomei's first real upside surprise. It yields 5%. Now, 6% is where the level, where stocks are being held by, and that's the trampoline, not 5. But I read the piece, and the piece made me feel that I should go by FedEx because I think FedEx is better run. I just flew in from L.A. Boy, my arm's tired. Sammy in California. Sammy.
Hey, we miss you here out in L.A. I'm actually in Northern California. I just had a hot dog from Costco, so I'm very happy, and I get to talk to you. I'm calling.
What, you pay $1.50 for that? Do you pay any more than $1.50?
No, they didn't have onions today. I was very disappointed, Jim.
I'm going to speak to the former CFO. Remind me to call that. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Listen, I have bought a stock which you've been recommending and which I've been in and out of for years at 480. Unfortunately, it's bouncing around at 400. Want to know what you think is happening with Tesla and when do you see it going back up and what's going to send it off?
Okay, that's a really great question. What happened is when it reported its last quarter and the numbers weren't that good, the stock went up. That was the signal that people felt it's no longer a car company, it's a tech company. Right now it's stalled. It needs to be able to demonstrate something different and new, and then it's going to go higher. The stock is only resting. If it goes down any more, then I want you to. Bye. And I just wish that my charitable trust, we do have a meeting on Thursday, tomorrow at noon. I wish we had bought Tesla for it, but we own Mag 6. It's better than, well, one more would have been good, too. I think we're witnessing a changing of the guard from Powell to Trump as the most important person in the economic firmament. On Mad Money tonight, I'm checking with the founder of RBN Energy to get a read on the energy landscape and talks of tariffs as President Trump begins his second term. Then Netflix soared to a new high today on earnings. I'm going to recap the quarter, telling you where I stand on that streaming giant. And speaking of all-time highs, one of my absolute favorite companies, GE Vernova, reported, and it was on the move again. So why don't you stay with Cramer?
Don't miss a second of Mad Money. Follow @Jim Cramer on X. Have a question? Tweet Cramer. #MadMentions. Send Jim an email to madmoney@cnbc.com or give us a call at 1-800-743-CNBC. Miss something? Head to madmoney.cnbc.com.